In this video, I'm going to show you how to install a partition wall in bayed TS8 industrial enclosures using 8800 470 brackets. The purpose of the 470 bracket is not only to hold the divider panel in place, but it's also to provide mechanical interlocking or baying of the enclosures on the vertical profile. We need T25 Torx bit or screwdriver, also a T30 Torx bit or screwdriver, cordless screwdriver, or these can be hand tools, a measuring tape, a wood wedge, or a large flat blade screwdriver. Alright, so these instructions might be a little difficult to see, but basically I've got four brackets, three brackets on this side, four brackets, and my first dimension from the bottom of the frame down to the center point of this bracket is 81 millimeters. And then from this bracket to that bracket is the height of my cabinet is 1800, so I'm going to do 525. And then you do the same thing from the bottom, so it's coming up 81 millimeters and then the same number 525 from that bracket to the center point of that bracket. So some helpful hints before you get started. When you're baying cabinets together and using a partition wall, you really can't use the 8800 500 quick wedges to bay together on the vertical and horizontal profiles. You can see here that the lip does not create enough room or clearance between the frame and the divider panel. Also, the 8800 430s, the corner brackets, a lot of people like these, especially for heavy loads. You can use them in this instance, but I'm going to show you a little issue you might run into. These actually have you doing a lot more work than you need to. I would recommend a 4582 500. These can be used on the vertical and horizontal profiles to bay the cabinets together. What happens with the 430s, you can see here, I have the 430s installed in the corners, but the top brackets, the 8800 470s that we're going to be installing, they don't sit flush with the frame. They still work, but if you don't like how that looks, then I would refer you to the 4582 500s that I've got here. And again, those can be installed on the vertical and the horizontal. We don't need to worry about vertical because that's why we're installing the 470 brackets anyway. So here's a picture without the corner brackets in, and now you can see that the 8800 470 sit nice and flush, all the holes line up with the frame. So now back to the installation. The first thing I want to do is, remember in the instructions, I want to come down 81 millimeters from the frame to the center point or the center of the hole in my bracket. And so I'm going to place my bracket in there. There's a little tab that fits into the hole pattern, and then you can put your self-tapping screws in. Now in this video, I'm just going to put two in. I put one in the back part and one in the side, so they're staggered, and then I stagger them top and bottom. That's going to be plenty of load support, but if you want to use all four holes with self-tapping screws in them, that's fine. That's up to you. Now the next part to place my second bracket from the top down is to take a measurement from the center point of the hole on the bracket that I just installed, and then according to the instructions and the height of my cabinet, it told me to come down 525 millimeters. So I make my mark on the frame, place my second bracket, then I'm going to go ahead and secure it in place with self-tapping screws. Now you're just going to repeat this for the bottom. So on the bottom, you start, and to place your first bracket from the bottom up, you go to 81 millimeters, and then from the center point of that bracket to the next bracket up, 525 millimeters. So do that from the back, do that from the front, and now you've got all your bracketry installed. And this is what's going to hold the mounting panel in place. So to place the panel in, I like to just cant the bottom in at an angle, and then you can see I'm putting it right over that bracket anyway. It doesn't create a problem. Tip it in. Now you want the folds of the divider panel to go back toward the brackets that you just installed. And then I just wedge a screwdriver in there to hold it in place, and then it also helps me line up the holes. One thing to keep in mind at this point is if you're going to use the gasket, you want to put it in now before you put the 470 brackets on, or you won't be able to install your gasket. For the 470s then, you can see I'm not using the gasket. Most people don't. If you just want to use it as a divider panel for physical separation between two cabinets, no need to put gasket in there. If, however, you want to use it to separate climate control, maybe you just want one cabinet climatized and not the other one, then you would put your gasket in there. And do that again before you put this bracket on. So I've done the top bracket, and you can see how the holes line up now. And now I'm going to repeat the same task at my next bracket down, just from a different angle so you can see how this is done. And then finally I'm going to put my T30 screw in to hold it in place. Maybe a smart idea would be don't tighten everything up until you get everything into place, and then go back around and tighten it up. That might make it easier for all your holes to line up. So just another angle of this. I've slid the 8800/470 bracket in place. It's lined up with the hole appropriately. Put my self-tapping screws in. And then finally, and those are T25 by the way, and then I change out my bit to a T30 because the screw that goes into the panel, through the panel into the threaded hole in the bracket is a T30. And now you can see here I've got all my brackets installed. So again, the 470s not only hold my panel, but it bays the cabinets together in a very strong configuration. There is a ground screw on the left and the right, and it's in the hardware bag. You can put that at the top, you can put that at the bottom as you see here for proper grounding. Thanks for viewing.